Hi, my name is Jeanette Barron, and you're watching Made in Vegas.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Made in Vegas. I'm your host, David Lee, and right now we got a new episode. Again, a new format. We're just trying something new. You might start wondering, what's this show all about? To answer that question, I'm not sure, but you know that this show was made in Vegas. All right. So you never know what to expect. We're gonna tackle some social issues and still kind of be into the fitness thing because that's what the show was started on. So we're always going to have something about health and fitness included somewhere. Anyway, in this show, I've got something different. She is a stand-up comedian and a storyteller all the way from Dallas, Texas. She's going to come to us from a very sensitive topic.
What happened to me happened around 8 to 10 years old. I'm not sure on the dates, but I found out through a cousin of mine who had went through some issues of her own, ended up in counseling, and during one of these counseling sessions, her mother attended, which was my aunt. My aunt came out and basically confronted me, why didn't I say anything? It was done by an uncle that not only had did this to me, another cousin, and another cousin, but also when my mother was a child, he didn't do anything to her, but he did things to his other sisters. My grandmother had a family of 19 children. So out of those children, I don't know how many were girls. I don't have the number in my head right now, but I know that probably half of them were girls. And he at least did half of those half, which is a little bit more than just, molestation. He was more brutal back then. And with me, it was, I'm 41, and it came out when I was young, but not detailed. And now that I'm 41, it's more details because with me, I think being a woman is in your head, there's memories that end up coming out. They surface on their own. And I think my brain tries to protect me to a certain extent, is it kind of cushions everything, so it kind of lets out little details here and there. But I think for me, I still don't know the full truth. My cousin has came out to me and said things that he used to play a game. He would tell all the boys, hey, you run outside, and all you guys go outside. You little girls stand by the window, you by the front door, make sure nobody's coming, and then I would be told to go in the room. And he would lock the door, and my cousin, her recollection was that she was banging on the door because I was screaming, and dragged me out and took me to the park, and she had yelled at him already and took me to the park, and I think I was so traumatized that I'm still to this day cannot remember every detail. I can't remember everything. This has affected me. I want to say that I would, most people end up promiscuous. I wasn't that case. I'm more cautious. I'm more sheltered. I'm not trusting. I don't trust everybody. I don't let everybody into my world. My body, I have issues with my body that even though I'm okay and I'm in good shape for being 41. I'm okay with being 41 and having kids. I'm happy and I'm healthy, but I still have those issues with my body. I have a bad body image in my head. But relationships, I have to dig into that one because I believe that this affected me where I ended up in an abusive relationship because I thought that was my value. I ended up in an abusive relationship for 15 years, and I highly believe that that's the reason, is, when you have such low self-esteem and self-value, is you end up not thinking that you're worth anything, and you end up going for what you're worth, what you think you're worth, and you end up being beat, for many years. So I think that's how that affected me. I went to counseling twice in my life. I was suicidal. So I ended up in counseling when my husband had cheated on me. He ended up cheating on me, and so I said, oh, well, I need help for him, to try to distinguish why he was cheating on me and trying to figure out why am I in this relationship. And it ended up coming out at that time. I was probably 30 years old. And at 30, I remember going into the counselor and saying, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I've dealt with the fact that this wasn't my fault. None of this is my fault. Even now I know this isn't my fault. It's just the fact that I'm older now and I can't speak out about it, and that's what I do. But I have seeked out counseling, but I always thought I was okay. My storytelling is motivated by everything in my life. Even my comedy. Nothing is not true. Anything that I go up there and talk about, whether it's storytelling or comedy, is my life. I'm not here to make jokes about, political. I'm not a political. I'm not someone that can, like off the top of my head, try to remember things. All I can do is tell my life story, and that's what I do, is the pain which is in my life. Whether it's the domestic violence that I can joke about in comedy, get detailed in storytelling, whether it's the molestation that happened. I do some really sick jokes with comedy, but in storytelling I delve into it. I go a little bit deeper. So everything with storytelling is a little bit more deeper, but everything's true. There's nothing that I go on stage and lie about. I have a lot of fans. I'm from Austin, so coming here and doing this for 8 months here in Vegas, I'm trying to get followed by a couple people that really do go out to my shows and really support me. I have a few people actually that do come, but this is Vegas and it's new for me. In Austin, I could fill up at least 200 seats, and that's because my storytelling it touches people. There's people that have come up to me and said, oh my God, I can't believe you talked about that. I know that was tough for you. I know that was, hard, but I want you to know that this has happened to me. I've done Facebook posts where I've mentioned the story of my molestation, and people, even if they don't like something or message me on Facebook, they'll text me and say, hey, this happened to me. And I'm the first person that they've told. I'm the first person that they've reached out to and said, hey, you're not by yourself. And I have to say, well, you're not by yourself. So that's how it's affected people that come and hear my stories. It's always, there's those times when you're telling a story and you pause, and that pause right there is monumental. That pause is where everybody sits there and it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It's where I'm out there and I'm reaching out and I'm touching people somehow, with whether it's dealing with what they don't ever have wanted to deal with. It's time. I think that there's a purpose why I go out there and stand or sit in a room full of people and tell this story, because for some reason, for me, I'm real spiritual and I'm real God, Christian. So I believe that every time I'm put in a room is when I tell that story, whether it's the molestation, whether it's domestic violence, is someone in that room needs to hear it. My falling from grace from Christianity. I got saved about 4 years ago. I was born again. I'm a born again Christian. And in that time, I started off having everything, which is I was in the abusive relationship. I had a house, I had cars, I had everything you could think of. I was happy, we had money. And then when Christianity hit, it was at a point where my husband had left me and left me for broke because I wasn't taking him back. I ended up at a food pantry and asked for toilet paper. I had no money for toilet paper. I needed food. And I remember one of the ladies saying, toilet paper is like gold. And she said it so spiteful, that I was sitting here begging for something. I ended up going to someone else, and they directed me to the person that would end up doing the saving, my new deacon. And he asked me, well, you need toilet paper, so are you willing to get saved? I said, for some toilet paper, let's do this. Let's do it. Let's do it. I needed it. I needed a lot of things. Christianity affected me where it's, it shifted and shaped and tore me and ripped me to nothing. When you're born again, I was told that you're basically as an infant again. You're really an infant. And what happens 2 years down the line after getting saved, you learn how to walk. And you're gonna have to learn how to walk on your own, but while learning how to walk, you fall. And so I talked to this person that was telling me this little bit, and I said, so I'm allowed to fall. And he said, no, you're not allowed to fall, you're expected to fall. And that's what I feel at this point in my life that I'm doing, being in Vegas. You know, it's not so much the temptation, because I've had so much temptation thrown at me, and I'm still kind of grounded, but I feel like I've lost everything that I possibly could have. And I kind of resent it. I kind of resent some of the things that they were teaching, you know, whether it was, for me, they were teaching us, God, I hate to say it, because I do it, I do this on stage, so you might get offended, you might have to bleep this out, but I do this thing where I talk about how my church deacon basically said, you can't hang out with niggers and faggots. Yes, Southern Baptist, Bible Belt of Texas, you can't bring them around here. Why do you still love them? You know, and black, I was raised by a black man, you know, and he was there when my mother was out trying to find herself. And so he raised me, and that hurts when you sit there and say black. As for the gay, is my friends that I met through MySpace invited me to karaoke. People that I didn't even know were like, hey, come out and do this karaoke. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go sing Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. Let's do this. Well, they're the first ones that ever said, the first ones that I actually let in and said, this is what's going on. This is why my lip is busted. This is why I didn't come out last week. They were the first person that ever said, you know, okay, so what's going on, and this is what you need to do. And they basically told me, you need to start breaking stuff. Break it. Just start breaking things. And I was like, what do you mean breaking things? He said, just break things, and he'll think you're crazy. And I started breaking things. And that was the beginning for me of the end of that abuse, to be in that relationship. That was the beginning. So when people tell me you can't hang out with this person or this person, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know, I'm an emotional being. That's who I am. I'm not this normal human being. I'm an emotional being, and I feel everything. And so when somebody tells me you can't hang out with this person or do this person, or you can't bring them to our church, it's like, what? You know, I'm meant to love unconditionally. And when you're telling me to change who I am, which is when any society gets in a group, you end up trying to change each other. You end up trying to say, oh, well, you don't fit in. You don't belong here then. And I don't belong then. Maybe I'm not a Christian, you know. Maybe I'm some other type of Christian that believes in reincarnation, because I do. I do believe in reincarnation as well. So I'm told I'm not a Christian. So if I'm not a Christian, even though I feel that I am, well, let me walk away. Let me walk away from what you've tried to instill in me, because it's not working for me.
So are you still going to a Christian church?
Not here in Vegas, no. No, I haven't found one. I end up, I'll find myself. You'll see me walk into a church. I never take my kids, but I will walk in on one by myself. And I haven't found one here that is where I feel at home. I haven't found one. And I've walked into quite a few, so no. Whether it's the chain of churches, you know, the plain buildings, you know, I don't know, I was raised in a Catholic church where it meant something to an extent, but yet I never felt that I was a Catholic. You know, when I ended up in the Christian church, I think that I ended up in the Southern Baptist church because it's basically the beginning of religion. It was hey, let's erase all this bad stuff from you. And I did need that. I did need to be told, you know, you can't do this and you can't do that. I needed to be told there were certain things that I couldn't do. You know, they used to tell me I was really charming. Another word, persuasive. You know, I was very charming. And I didn't understand what they were saying, but they saw that as a flaw, as a character flaw. When I see it as it's something that is somewhere, it's gonna take me somewhere. Whether it's charming, persuasive, whatever it is you're telling me not to be who I am. And this is who I am. This is by nature who I am. Oh, it's hard to describe. The healing through Christianity. There were things that I was doing back then. There was the drugs, a lot of drugs. There was a time when I remember going to a friend's house, and this was a friend who had these drugs readily available. And I remember for the first time saying no. I also remember the first time not saying no after being born again and doing these drugs. And I remember feeling a guilt. And it was a guilt that I couldn't explain. It was a guilt that I talked to other people about, and only some born-again Christians know what I'm talking about. It's when I do wrong, when I know that I'm doing something that isn't right, I feel this sense of guilt, and it changes me. It shifts me to where I'm like, okay, I don't need those. I don't need to do this to heal. I don't need to be out there trying to drink everything away. I don't need to do that. And when I find myself in that spot, I realize that for me, I talk to God, I pray. I'm so hungry. Sorry. I talk to God, I pray, I do these, I motivate myself speaking. And I know for me, as crazy it may sound, is I know that He talks to me. I know that He speaks to me and says, hey, you shouldn't do this, or hey, this is what's going on right now. This is where I'm leading. And I ask every day is, hey, lead me. Please lead me. Lead my feet, lead my hands, lead everything that, there is to lead about me is lead me. Let me be the vessel. Let me try to figure out how to be the vessel and be good. I falter, I fall, I'm not always the perfect person. I try to be kind. I feel things that other people don't feel, whether it's towards homeless, whether it's, believe it or not, I was at the homeless shelter when I first got here, which is Shade Tree. I had tried to get into a house here and it didn't work out, so I ended up at the domestic violence for women shelter for a month and a half because I knew what I wanted. I needed to get out of there and I needed to find a house. I had a goal, but God for me He's healed things, whether it's me asking for forgiveness for certain things. Like when I do something from the past, if I've done something to somebody in the past, there's a memory that comes up of that, and I'm like, oh my God, forgive me for that, even if that person can't forgive me. And once I do that, I'm done and I move on. I think a lot of people, when they think of Christianity, they have a different idea of it. But with me, it's made me a better person, and it's healed me in a way that whether it's the domestic violence or the molestation, it doesn't kill me. I know people that are on drugs right now. I know people that are homeless right now that can't grasp it, the concept of what healing is. They'd rather sit there and be miserable with this, and I don't want to be miserable. I want to heal, and I want to heal other people. Do I feel conflicted when I talk dirty on comedy? Because storytelling's not so dirty, but the comedy is. The comedy is as dirty as it gets with me, and I'm a Christian. I've been confronted before and told, you call yourself a Christian by another Christian comedian. You call yourself a Christian, but yet you say these things. This is who I am. And whether anybody likes it or not, I have that thing where I just started saying this, which is, you can sit up there and say this little weak phrase, which is only God can judge me. But my thing is, can't nobody tell me how my story is written. God wrote my story, and I know that. And so with my story, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little raw. It's going to be a little bit, hey, I need to be able to attract people that are not nice and clean. I need to attract those people that need me. And to relate to them is foul language, whether we like it or not, is, hey, I cuss. I talk about certain things in my body, issues that I have, in dating. I get dirty, and this is who I am, and this is the way I'm going to tell this story, is nobody's going to sit there and tell me how it's written but myself.
So through all the things that you say, what is the underlying message?
My underlying message? Oh, I have to think about that one. My underlying message is everybody be better. Be better, heal, get over it and move on. There's so many people that are, especially Vegas, there's so many people that, are on medicine, medication and drinking and sex. Sex is everywhere in Vegas. It's here, it's there, and that's their comfort. But yet there's other ways to do it, whether it's writing, whether it's being creative. I think a lot of people in this world don't realize that they don't find a certain happiness, whether it's with a job or a relationship, is because they're so creative. Their mind is twisting and turning with all these creative ideas, and they're not using it. So use it, because most of us that are out there that are lost are the creative kind. I'm so hungry. They're the creative kind. They're creative, and that's why they're, I don't know, like, you're a creative person, I'm a creative person, and when we sit there and we, if we're alone in a room, our mind is racing with ideas, and there's people that have those same ideas, but they go crazy. They end up crazy because they don't know how to put it down on paper. They don't know how to get on a computer and draw. They don't know how to do what they need to do to let it out. And my thing is, heal, let whatever go, let it go, and just move on and create. Because I think that that's what the majority of the problem is. There's so many creative people that they don't know that that's who they are. The advice that I'd give to somebody that went through the same things that I've been through, the advice that I would give is to talk to somebody, even if you talk out loud. There's times that I'm in the mirror, or even in the restroom, or in the tub, and I'm saying these things because I need to let it out. Somebody needs to hear, even if it's the walls. I would definitely say go get counseling if you can. Go talk to somebody that you're comfortable with, most likely a friend. There's somebody out there to listen. You're never going to let it out unless you let it out. It'd be wonderful to reach out and say, hey, reach out to me and come and, call me, text me, because a lot of people text. So Facebook me, Instagram me, go on my Instagram and see what I'm about. Go on my Facebook and see what I'm about. Go read some of the stories that I have, because I have so many stories. And I try to be as motivational as possible, which is don't let it affect you. It doesn't have to affect you every day. It's a mere memory. It's a bad memory, but it's a mere memory, and it's a past. It's the end, cut it, and let's go try to figure out what we're going to do tomorrow. Let's go do it. Let's go do today. Let's go do something today. Let's go. Let's go. They can reach me off Facebook. They can reach me off my phone number. Do I got to give out my phone number? Okay, my Facebook is I am Jesus in a pretty dress. Isn't that amazing? I am Jesus in a pretty dress, all one word. And then my Instagram is AKA Jenny.